Hi, and welcome to Astro Bites for Wednesday, the 11th of September, 2024. So let's see what the astrology is telling us today. And then remember, after I do the deep dive into today's astrology, we then move on to our deep dive into the word of the day. One or two of you had a bit of a problem with the word that we had for yesterday, and it was anxiety. And the last thing I want to do is evoke anyone's anxiety. So I'm sorry if some of you found that you didn't want to listen to that, but maybe if you did, or you go back and listen to it, you might find it will really help with you coping with certain aspects of anxiety. But anyway, that aside, moving on to today's astrology, what we have is the moon in Sagittarius. And as we start the day, it's in strong opposition to Jupiter that rules Sagittarius in the sign of Gemini. Now, both these signs are what we call mutable, which means they are flexible. They allow us to have some flexibility in our thinking, because remember, the moon can be about our intuitive side, and whilst it's in Sagittarius, I think we have much more of a positive outlook on life, especially because it's in opposition to Jupiter. So even though it's an opposition, you know, Jupiter, as I said, does rule Sagittarius, and Jupiter is about optimism and luck, opportunity. So it expands what it touches. It's in Gemini. It's in Gemini that is also ruled by Mercury. Now, what's interesting is that Mercury, our planet of communication, our planet of thinking, of ruminating sometimes when it's in a negative phase, has moved into Virgo. And the good news about this is that it's finally, over today and tomorrow, moving out of what's known as its retrograde shadow. So even though it's going direct, a planet has to go through the shadow period of where it's been in that retrograde phase. And this time Mercury went back into Leo, and then it went direct in Leo and moved forward through Leo into Virgo, and it's now back in Virgo, a sign that it also rules. So it's interesting that we've got this correlation between Mercury that rules Virgo and Gemini. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and is opposite the moon. I think news comes around the next few days, which is fortunate, that you're quite pleased about, that makes you feel, okay, that sounds positive. So if there's anything that you've been waiting for in terms of news, or contacting someone that has been perhaps a bit elusive, then the energies are now shifting in favor of you making contact. The sun, of course, as we know, is still in Virgo. And the sun actually starts the day by making a square, which remember is a challenging aspect to the moon, that in turn is in opposition to Jupiter. And it's also squaring Jupiter as well, the sun. So what we have here is a little bit of challenging energy going on behind the scenes. And I think there's a sense of news that comes in that has a lot of details in it that have to be sorted out, and that the squares, there's kind of one part of oneself that is excited and optimistic and saying, yes, this is great, this can do this, we can do that. And the other bit is holding back, saying, yeah, but how is this bit going to work? And how are we going to sort out that bit? And the best way to deal with this energy is to just go, you know what? All of those things will be addressed and sorted. Let them be. Let them fall into place, because Mercury is also today, our planet of communication, making a lovely harmonious sextile to Mars that rules Aries. Mars, remember, is all about energy, action, assertion. Mars is in Cancer. Yeah, I know, it doesn't like being in Cancer, but it's trying to inject some of its energy into Mercury to empower the conversations and dialogue that may take place today that need a little bit of support. So that is helpful. And remember, we're still widely within that square from Mercury to Uranus. So there could still be that, you know, there's a lot of information and news flying around that it's almost like the brain is getting overloaded with the amount of information that is coming in. And that might be not just on a personal level, but also on the world stage. There could be things unfolding that we're thinking, oh my God, how do we keep up with all of this? But what else is going on in the sky before we come on to our word for the day? Well, Venus in Libra is working towards the most beautiful trine. Beautiful trine, helpful aspect with Jupiter that is, of course, in Gemini. They are getting closer and closer. So in spite of what can look like a little bit of difficulty with certain plans and how one is going to put them into operation, and bits of news and information that are distracting and confusing, Venus is kind of bringing up the energy towards this beautiful trine where it's saying, calm, peace, all will be well. And these situations and problems and difficulties that seem to be around will be settled. So let's leave our chart on that positive note, with also a Libra ascendant for the event chart, which says that actually today can be about harmony, peace in relationships, and good communication. There is a sense of connecting with people from your past, because the South Node is conjunct the ascendant of this chart. So I'll just add that. Let's move on to our word for the day. So our word for the day is actually a word that is used a lot, and you may not use it much in your own personal life, but I thought it might be quite helpful to just explain a little bit about a word that is used within the confines, if you like, of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis. And the word is transference. And this is a little bit leading on from the word projection, because this is where we have, in a sense, projections that go on to the other, that in a sense they feel as if they are quite real for the person transferring the redirection of the feelings onto significant relationships. So it could be like, it is a little bit like, as I say, projection, if you have a very good close friend, you might keep accidentally even calling them mummy or daddy. And then you think, oh, I'm so sorry. You're not my mother. You're not my father. And that is the kind of thing that can come up with this, because there is something going on unconsciously that is familiar, reassuring. In this case, we're seeing it as good mother, reassuring, comforting, that can help in the process of this relationship, friendship. So there can be a lot with transference about reenacting past relationships. So this can happen, of course, also in relationships, one-to-one relationships, where we even by mistake call the other by the name of the ex, and we think, oh my God, did you hear that? And the other one goes, yeah, I did. Why are you calling me Fred? Or whatever the word is. And so it's really quite important to, I guess what I'm trying to get across with all of this is that with every interaction throughout the day, whether we're caught in some kind of projection or transference, it's so important to be mindful and aware. Because if we can keep looking to see how our unconscious is working and bring it to the forefront, bring it to first, sort of the first place, the first stage, and into the conscious self, then it makes, it just makes life much easier, because it can help you understand another. So if we remove it from, say, a therapeutic situation, if you find yourself caught in that situation, it can make you think, that's interesting. When my partner behaves like my father, maybe I need to understand a little bit more about my father to be able to understand a little bit more about my partner. So there's that kind of edge to it, and it can help to heal old emotional wounds. So, if, for instance, you've been neglected by your parents and your other half is always late for appointments, it might make you feel frustrated, neglected. You may have a very strong reaction to them being late, even if it's only 5 minutes, because actually it's nothing to do with the current partner on one level, but what it's done is it's brought up the feelings that you've experienced as a child that's been neglected. And so within a therapeutic relationship, for instance, if the therapist is late, that gives wonderful, as I call it, grist to the mill to be worked through in a session. It can really bring up the gold of what's going on deep in a patient's psyche. So once we start to understand these kind of processes, and it can just really enhance our relationships. So in life in general, it can just help us work through unresolved feelings from the past and look at why it is that certain situations and certain behaviors from people in our kind of current environment irritate us so much. So it's really an expansion of the word projection. So there we go. That's the word for today. So thank you so much for joining me for today's Astro Bite. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you've got words that you would like me to talk about or discuss, why not drop them in the comments? And there are 365 days for a year, so, you know, we've got plenty of scope, and that could be very helpful to a lot of people. Okay, my loves, you are all awesome. Thank you so much for all the wonderful comments and the interaction that we have. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in yet another Astro Bite. Bye for now.